Welcome to the Payday with Rayray podcast, hosted by yours truly, Rachel Bell. I'm here to make your life easier as an entrepreneur and teach you everything I've learned about building multiple seven-figure online businesses. And on this podcast, I'll be giving you my best advice, trainings, and mindset shifts so you can grow your business and, most importantly, make every day your payday. You guys, welcome back to another episode of Payday with Rayray. I'm your host, Rachel Bell, and I am here to talk about something that comes up in every single entrepreneurial journey sooner or later, and that is the emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurship. And let me just preface this by saying nobody tells you exactly how difficult it is to not only go through an intense personal development transformation while you're an entrepreneur, but also do it in the midst of so much action and so much implementation. And generally speaking, what I find in most of my students that I mentor to build their businesses, and they're making progress extremely quickly, and they are going through the different steps they need to go through in order to create the coaching business of their dreams, they all encounter very specific roadblocks that has to do with a lot of different topics. It could be worthiness, it could be self-esteem, it could be belief and vision and just having the knowing that they are going to be successful. It could be around their boundaries, it could be around their standards, it could be really anything that you haven't yet resolved in yourself. Or you might be a mindset coach, you might be a life coach watching this or listening to this and you're like, well, shit, I feel like I'm pretty woke, honestly, Rachel. But let me just promise you, I also went through a tremendous amount of personal development and trainings, including getting my neurolinguistic certification and going to all the Tony Robbins events and hiring coaches and therapists to help me with my mindset. But nothing could prepare me for the amount of transformation and evolution I would need to be accepting of inside of my entrepreneurial journey. So if you're listening to this and you feel called to listen to this episode, chances are you're in the midst of all of the struggle as well, whether you're dealing with not feeling like you're enough, smart enough, good enough, whatever it is, or whether you're just struggling with all the uncertainty that's right now in front of you, like not knowing when the next dollar is going to come in, or not knowing if what you're posting is going to be beneficial or completely flop. You have no way of telling and no way for someone to guarantee anything for you. So you're on this journey what seems to be alone. And I would just love to kind of link arms with you in this journey and show you kind of how I've been able to deal with some of these emotional roller coasters that exist within entrepreneurship. So without any further ado, let me share with you a little background onto how I discovered that business is really a reflection of your internal world. I'll say that again. And if you guys notice me repeating anything, let me just tell you that if I repeat anything, it is not by accident, it's on purpose, and it's something that you absolutely need to write down and remember for your entire journey. Entrepreneurship is a reflection of your inner world. It's a reflection of who you are. And I believe in life, you attract not what you want, but what you are. And so that means that if you are right now in the beginning of your journey and you're not seeing any financial reward, you're not seeing any abundance, and you're not seeing any clients begging and knocking at your door saying, how do I pay you? Chances are you're not yet prepared spiritually, emotionally, mentally, or tactically to take on those clients. It's really, really funny to witness because I can think back to my own personal journey, and it took me anywhere from 3 to 4 years to get my first high-paying client. And it sounds funny to look back on that in retrospect now and be like, oh, wow, that seems like not a long time to go from, 3 to 4 years and then finally hit 6 figures in the next 6 months after that period of time, and then go on to hitting 7 figures, multiple 7 figures, etc. It doesn't seem like that long to actually create a thriving, profitable business in the long run, in retrospect. And at the same time, when I was in that 3-year period of not having any clients or any proof that I was capable of being a full-time entrepreneur, it felt like eternity. And I set off on this journey like, I'm going to make 10K per month. It's so doable. I see all these other people doing it. Like, I know I'm smart enough. I know I'm good enough. I know that I can do this thing. I know that I can help people. Like, if I just had 3 clients sign up with me right now, I would totally be able to help them. And at the same time, when I was in the midst of not having any proof at all, I was like, fuck, am I ever going to be able to do this? And nobody could give me the answer because the proof is in the pudding. Now, during that time, I was like, I don't get it. Why is this not clicking for me? It's clicking for everyone else. But now looking back on my journey, I can genuinely say, I know I was not ready for the clients. I know I wasn't emotionally or evolutionary prepared for the responsibility that I was going to have when clients signed up. I know that because I would still engage in a lot of self-sabotaging behaviors in the beginning. Not all that were conscious. I wasn't deciding to fuck up my own progress, but something inside my heart and my spirit and my soul was just resistant to stepping up into the next level of who I knew I was meant to be and who I needed to be in order to attract the abundance that I wanted. So that basically means I wasn't ready for the results that I wanted, so I got what I needed. And I find that in life, when you don't get what you want, you always get what you need. And that's sometimes hard to accept, and we'll talk about acceptance a little bit later in this episode. But when I set off on my journey, long story short, thought I was going to make it big really, really fast because that's what I wanted. But instead I got what I needed, which was a very, very humbling, long, painful, humiliating, embarrassing journey in entrepreneurship. And now I'm so grateful that I had such a struggle. And what I would invite you to just sit into and just kind of breathe in right now when you're listening to this is, I know that your journey in the beginning of entrepreneurship, and I mean, if we're being completely honest, your whole entire journey of entrepreneurship can be packed with a lot of stress. It can be packed with a lot of resistance and things that you genuinely don't want to face or deal with. And that's just life. And at the same time, when you can truly accept that the journey is not going to be pretty, it's going to be messy, it's going to be all over the place, it's going to really test you, then you're not going to have this level of resistance that prevents you from actually growing. So I can pretty much break down for you exactly what type of severe self-sabotage things I was dealing with at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey that indicates to me that I wasn't honestly ready for the clients that I said I wanted. The first thing that I was dealing with on a very, very deep level was this worthiness piece. Like I knew that I had the skill sets and I knew that I could be resourceful enough to help any client that signed up with me. But honestly, I didn't feel like I actually deserved anyone's money. I didn't feel like I deserved to have the life that I really wanted. I don't know. I just felt like although I had pretty good self-esteem and I really, really wanted to help others. And that's genuinely where my motivation even came from in the first place. I didn't really do it for the money at all. And if I did do it for the money, I definitely wouldn't have made it as far as I have right now. I was just doing it because I think there's no better feeling than being able to support someone in a breakthrough and support someone to achieve and give and do and be and have whatever they want in life. I think that's such a gift that we can give each other as human beings. Why wouldn't I want that to be my whole entire career? And so that's why I started with coaching. But at the same time of really, really wanting to give, I felt like there was this piece of me that wasn't really worthy of receiving money, especially large amounts of money. I felt like I didn't have any evidence to prove that I was worth that amount of trust. And if you're listening to this and you haven't yet discovered high ticket coaching, or you have trouble raising your prices because you're afraid of losing potential leads or you're afraid of disappointing your clients, you can probably relate to this piece really, really strongly. And that's something that I was really dealing with at the beginning. I was also dealing with, a large amount of self-esteem issues. Even though on the surface I was pretty confident, I was putting myself out there, I was always leaving my comfort zone, I was doing my best to really be confident. The truth was that I wasn't that confident when it came down to the core of everything. So for example, I wouldn't show up on Instagram stories for the first 6 months that it was around, really, because I was really, really afraid of being seen. I was afraid of someone seeing my acne breakouts or me not looking beautiful enough or something like that, and just thinking that I didn't know what I was talking about, or that I was too young to be talking about what I was talking about, or something like that. I was really, really afraid of being seen. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs don't want to talk about this part because it's embarrassing to admit that you have self-esteem issues. And it makes you feel very vulnerable. But what I want to kind of lead the way with is that everyone has shit that they're insecure about. Every single person. Maybe it's your voice. You don't like the sound of your voice. Maybe it's the way that your skin looks, or maybe it's the way that your hair looks. Maybe it's the way that you present yourself. Maybe you feel like you don't have confidence. Maybe it's something that you just can't control or change, and you're letting that get in the way of you showing up and actually giving your gift. So at the beginning of my journey, I was dealing with a lot of insecurity around, man, what if someone sees my acne breakouts and they think that I'm not healthy, or they think that I don't take care of myself, and then they don't listen to me as a result. And it was a really difficult thing to overcome because the truth is someone could think that way about me and I would have no control over that. And I had a choice myself. Since I couldn't rely on other people for validation, I had to make a choice myself. Like, do I accept me regardless of what other people think of me? And the more that I worked on that, the more I was able to show up with confidence. I was also dealing with a lot of belief and vision insecurities. Like I was like, when people were like, oh, you could make a 7-figure business, but I had never made even a dime with my own coaching business or with anything that I was creating. I was like, thank you, but I also have no fucking idea what that even feels like or what that means. So for me to put 7 figures on my vision board was just stretching me way beyond what I could actually tangibly fathom. So if you're also struggling with vision difficulties, like actually getting yourself to believe that you can and will have more than what you have right now, I recommend starting small. The first thing I wrote on my vision board was 100K. I just wanted to make 100K in a year. And I knew that if I made 100K in 1 year, that would be a great stepping stone to then envisioning a bigger and brighter future for myself. Like, okay, what does 150K look like? What does 200K look like? What does 500K look like? What does $1 million look like? And by stretching my vision step by step, it allowed me to have a bigger scope as to what was possible and how easy it was for me to accomplish all these different things, one thing at a time. But I did have a lot of insecurity around my vision and my beliefs and what I was truly capable of because I had no tangible proof that I was capable of anything at all. So stretching myself to believe in things that were not yet in the tangible reality was a big ask. So I recommend for anyone who's having doubts around their vision, start small. Start with something that you actually can tangibly wrap your mind around and feel excited by. And also a little bit scared, because the scary and exciting combo of your goals is really a sweet spot on where you're going to be able to stretch yourself the most, but also do something that's exciting, not totally 100% intimidating. You need to feel some sort of pull and some sort of resistance so that you know that you're on the right track to growing into who you need to be. Now, I also had a lot of issues around boundaries and standards. I was living on Struggle Street, it's true, and that's where I lived in my first 3 to 4 years of entrepreneurship. And still, I like to go back to Struggle Street every now and again and just take a walk down the street and think about life. But chances are, if you're listening to this, you're also somewhat living on Struggle Street. Maybe you have a part-time residency there or something, maybe not full-time, lucky for you, but we all visit there sometimes. I had a lot of issues with boundaries and standards. I was a people pleaser, which means that I would totally overgive and I would be approaching every negotiation or every sales call or every opportunity I had to do anything, really, put myself out there. All I was thinking about was, how can I make this person in front of me feel so comfortable and get what they want and do whatever like they really want, because I was just such a giver and such a people pleaser. And that worked until it didn't. Like, obviously, I think that it's great. It's a gift in some ways, but it also has some distortions and some weaknesses to being a people pleaser. A good gift for that is that you're incredibly empathetic. You have an ability to read people and understand what it is they need and to give them what they need. You're really good at solving problems and being there for others. But a con to being a people pleaser is that you don't have any personal boundaries or standards for yourself. So you can very easily fall into a self-sacrificial role in your relationships, whether it's with clients or friends or family, and you just constantly give from an empty cup. And that is so not sustainable. And I think that's why the majority of entrepreneurs go through a burnout period in their entrepreneurial journey, and they have to take a step away from their business completely in order to recover. And I truly believe that business care at its core is self-care, because it illuminates all the parts of us that are underdeveloped or unloved, and it brings them right to the surface for us to actually look at and heal it and choose to change it. So I think that the more you work on your business and you link it to what's personally coming up for you in your personal development journey, the stronger you'll be as an entrepreneur, and you'll be able to go through anything. So the question that I was asking myself constantly during this time of struggling constantly with my business and not having clients and not having any guarantee that I was doing the right thing at all, I was constantly asking myself this question. Well, 2 questions. Number 1, what the fuck is wrong with me? And number 2, does anyone else deal with this stuff? Like, am I crazy or something? Does anyone else actually deal with this amount of self-sabotage? Because it is crippling. And I remember just being so perplexed as to like, how could I possibly be successful when I'm procrastinating, or when I am avoiding opportunities because I'm scared, or that I'm like self-sabotaging relationships because I'm scared of being seen, or I'm scared of being powerful, or I'm scared of all these different things. How could I possibly be successful with all of this shit going on in the background? And I doubted my abilities to be a successful entrepreneur for the majority of my journey. So if you're asking yourself those two questions, I have great news for you. Number one, nothing is wrong with you. And number two, you are not alone. Literally every human on this planet has some tremendous obstacle to go through. And I think that a lot of us end up choosing entrepreneurship because it leads us most directly to our healing path. And I also have kind of a woo-woo belief, and take it or leave it. If you like it, run with it. If you don't like it, whatever. But I have a belief that as souls, we have different life assignments, which means that we come to this earth and we choose a vessel, like we choose our parents, we choose our body, we choose our life in order to achieve a very specific realization, or a very specific breakthrough, or a very specific assignment in our life, our purpose to overcome. If you're listening to this and you feel called to entrepreneurship, chances are that you have already kind of had this feeling from the very beginning, like that you were here and you're a little bit different than other people, and you just have this like innate knowing of who you are at a very cosmic level, and you just kind of feel like you're here to do something big, even though you may not know clearly what that is yet. Now, things can definitely get in the way of this life assignment. And oftentimes we go through very, very specific woundings as children, or very early on in our human journey, that installs survival systems in us. So here's a very concrete example of this. I, in the past, have been a perfectionist. Super, 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 super intense perfectionist. I'm no longer shackled by that belief in that survival system, but here's how it was installed. When I was young and when I was growing up, I had a lot of standards to uphold. I was required and expected to get all A's. I was required and expected to behave and be a good girl and, go to this really, really oppressive and strict high school that had us wear uniforms buttoned up to the top, like long skirts, the whole shindig. I was raised religious, very, very strict, like no cussing, no saying the word stupid, no anything, like no hugging other men or no hugging the opposite sex. It was very, very strict, very intense, and very much, it was just installing a lot of programming in my brain at such a young age that I had to be perfect in order to be worthy, or in order to be loved, or in order to be deserving. And at the time, I didn't even realize that that was the programming that was being installed. I was just like, oh, this is how it is. This is how life is. I guess I should just abide by this. And what I learned to do was to behave really, really well, at least in front of my parents. In the background, I might have been sneaking in the woods to smoke some weed or something, but God, I wouldn't tell anyone, or I wouldn't let my parents know that, because, oh my gosh, I would lose all of their love, right? So that goes to show how broken sometimes we are coming out of situations like that, because it installs this intense perfectionism that you will only be loved or worthy if you abide by the specific rules, or you abide by the specific guidelines that are given to you, or expectations of others that are given to you. So I grew up with a lot of perfectionist expectations around me. Now, here's another thing I want to draw attention to. Our parents and the people around us who raise us, generally speaking, they do genuinely want the best for you. Seriously, like they are just doing the best they can with the resources they have. And they were probably raised in a very similar way. And all they're trying to do is keep us safe, keep us happy, and make sure that we are loved. And that's it. So I can't really say that anyone was doing anything wrong to me as a child. Like that wouldn't be fair to really their journey. And I believe that everyone is doing the best they can with the resources they have. And at the same time, I was still walking away with intense perfectionism habits, because it was the only way I could survive as a kid. I had to be perfect. I had to write, essays in order to request to watch a specific movie and things of that nature. And that being said, I now have the opportunity in my entrepreneurial journey to consistently come up face to face with this perfectionist tendency and ask myself, do I want to keep behaving in alignment with what I was taught, or do I want to behave in alignment with the way I actually am and the way that I want to be? That's a choice that I face every single day to rewire myself. And what we generally refer to this instance as in the personal development industry is inner child wounds or inner child programming. And they kind of show up as triggers. So how this showed up later in my entrepreneurial journey or later in my life was I got a lot of my self-esteem and worth when I was growing up from how well I would perform. Like, how well could I do things? How well could I do sports? How well could I do math problems? How well could I do my papers? How well could I do just anything, like cleaning the dishes, making my bed? Like, how well could I perform tasks perfectly? That was what I sourced all of my worth on, because if I didn't do anything right or I didn't do it perfectly, I would get the loss or the withdrawal of love, as I understood it as a child. So that created a lot of triggers in me to take it really, really personally when I didn't do something perfectly. And when I was in a business partnership a couple years back, I was trying my best to be really, really productive. But God, you guys probably know how hard it is to be productive when you're a perfectionist. Like, that just gets in the way all the time. So I was dealing with this intense perfectionism thing and trying to be super, super productive because we had incredible demands on what we needed to output in terms of customer service and customer delivery and marketing and all those things. And I felt super triggered and angry all the time with myself because my business partner would come in and say, hey, did you get XYZ done? Did you get this done? Did you get this done? Why am I still waiting on this? What's wrong with this? Why haven't you done this? And I would be like super angry at myself and kind of angry at my business partner too, because I was like, dude, I'm getting it done. Just leave me alone. Oh my God. And really, I was just taking it so personally and not being able to see the issue clearly, which is that he wasn't trying to trigger me. He was just like, hey, what's going on? Like, why aren't these things done? It's past the due date. He was just asking because he was curious, but I took it so personally, and I would like cry and be angry and have to leave because I felt so fucking unworthy because I didn't get something done. And it made me feel really crazy. So this is why I want to tie back to, you may be asking yourself, am I crazy? Is anyone else going through this? But if you were encountering these intense triggers from your childhood, like your survival systems and how you made it through the beginning part of your life, you're not crazy. You're just dealing with an intense evolution where you get to decide who you want to show up as in the future versus who you've been in the past. And what worked for you when you were like 6 or 7 or 8 years old is not the same thing that's going to work for you as a full-blown adult. Now, what I found most of these survival systems boil down to is a motivating factor from 3 things. It's either fear, shame, or guilt. That's generally speaking what motivates us to do what we do. We go to school because we quote unquote should go to school, otherwise we won't be enough. Or we should do XYZ because we should, because otherwise we won't be enough. So we use fear, shame, and guilt as really, really powerful motivators in our society. I mean, it's intense. I mean, if you think about the way that our entire society is formed, the best way to keep the masses in quote unquote check is to use fear, shame, or guilt as motivators. There's a lot of societal structures, religion, whatever you want to call it, that use these things in order to keep people in line and make sure that everyone's being peaceful and respectful and forming a productive society. Now, in your journey, though, fear, shame, and guilt will work until they don't. And if you are finding yourself coming to terms with the fact that there's 2 parts of you, one part of you that feels guilty and feels like ashamed and feels afraid all the time, and another part of you that has so much possibility and enthusiasm and love and just power to move forward into a new reality, these parts of you are constantly conflicting. And you're not able to be in harmony with yourself, which feels like insanity. What I've learned in my journey and what I want to share with you today more than anything else is whenever you notice yourself operating from fear, shame, or guilt, I want to invite you to shift that motivating factor into love and the question of why not? Like, I'm safe, I'm loved, so why not do what I want to do? Instead of saying, oh, I need to do XYZ or I should do XYZ, change the language to I want to do XYZ. I choose to do XYZ. And that will be just a very small shift that has changed my entire way of perceiving my journey that I want to invite you guys to embark in as well. Another thing I want to bring up, because I get a lot of questions about mindset and a lot of questions about how to deal with rejection or how to deal with things not going right or how to deal with the constant not knowing and the constant uncertainty of when things or if things are ever going to work for you. You don't know how to deal with losing a client or a client asking for a refund, or maybe you go through a journey with a client and they don't get results and you feel all this fear, shame, and guilt coming into play to run the show because it's honestly your survival system. In times of stress, we always resort to our survival systems, whether that's perfectionism, whether that's anger, whether that's taking control, whether it's manipulating others, whatever your survival system has needed to be to get you through the hard times in your childhood, it probably shows up here as well in your adult life whenever you encounter these times of not feeling like you're enough, dealing with rejection, dealing with uncertainty, dealing with failure, dealing with all these different types of things. One thing that I want to share that I think will change your entire life if you let it is a quote by Eckhart Tolle, I think. Eckhart Tolle, I'm not sure how to say his last name, but he said, "In every situation, you can change the situation, leave the situation, or accept the situation. All else is madness." I'll say that again. You can change the situation, leave the situation, or accept the situation. All else is madness. So, what I view entrepreneurship as more than anything else, more than a great way to live the laptop lifestyle and make money doing what you love and make 10K per month doing a big, like more than anything like that, I view entrepreneurship as a mirror, a really fucking honest mirror showing you what you are, who you are, and what you currently believe you are worth. I used to really, really not like that reality. I didn't like that reflection when I was in the beginning of my journey because I was like, no, I know that I'm worth more. Like, I know it logically and cognitively. Like, I know that I can do this. I know that I'm worth it. But in my heart and in my being, in my body, I did not believe it. And that needed to shift more than anything else. Now, when it comes to changing, leaving, and accepting situations in your business, I have to share with you that in your entrepreneurial journey, there's about 50% of aspects and things that you can control and 50% of your business that you absolutely can never control. You're in charge of all of it, but you can't control all of it. You're in charge of the way that you respond to all these different situations, but you're really not in control of any of it at all, ever. So I want to tell you a quick story that happened to me very recently, and it's a personal story, but it relates to this very, very well in terms of, being on the entrepreneurial journey, building your coaching business, building your consulting business, your agency, whatever it is, and not knowing what the next corner is going to hold for you. You have such a tremendous amount of stress and uncertainty around, am I going to be able to pay my bills next month? Yeah, I just had a 10K month, but is next month going to look like that? Or I haven't gotten a client the past 4 months, and how could I expect it to happen next month or this month? Like, you have no guarantees. You have no promises. You have no clock in and clock out and get paid by the hour. You're putting your faith and your belief into everything that you do. And so it only makes sense that you would get a little bit attached and a little bit grabby for the outcome. You're like, how do I make this happen? How do I make sure that I get 10K per month right now? And I totally understand where you're coming from. I used to think that way as well. And sometimes I still catch myself being like, oh, how do I get this outcome? Instead of viewing it through the lens of, okay, I can change, leave, or accept this situation, no matter what it is. Now, the personal story has to do with my precious little French Bulldog. Her name is Sky. And French Bulldogs, typically, because of the way they're bred, and this is kind of heartbreaking, but it's something that I learned after I adopted her, French Bulldogs struggle with a lot of spine and gastrointestinal issues. So typically what happens is at some point in their little lives, they will have some sort of complication with their spine or with their back. And they will either slip a disc, have a bulging disc or something like that in their spine. And there's a couple different outcomes that can occur from a dog having this type of accident. Either they can recover with the right training and rest and recovery and medication if needed, or they continue to have issues with their spine and they're diagnosed with a disease called IVDD, which is, I think, intervertebrae disease. Or I honestly don't know the full. Clearly, I don't know the full explanation of what that acronym means, but it's called IVDD, and it's a disease in a lot of small, compact breeds like Dachshunds and French Bulldogs. Anyway, I'm not a fucking veterinarian. I'm here to just share the story. So I came home one night after doing a training with some of my students, and I realized that she was having trouble walking and she was looking really nervous, and it was totally not like her at all. And of course, I immediately kind of went into an internal panic. I was like, oh my God, why can't she walk? This is terrible. Holy shit, I need to go to the vet right now. So I rushed her to the vet. It was like 10 p.m. and was in the vet's office until like midnight, trying to get answers for what she was dealing with. Because the worst thing in the world, if you own a pet, you own an animal, you know, the worst thing in the world is watching them be in pain and not knowing how to fix it. It's the worst thing in the world. So I was distraught and really, really saddened. And I was just praying and praying and praying, please don't be IVDD. Please don't be IVDD, because all the French Bulldogs I know with IVDD basically have to live their lives out of a crate. And I don't know what type of decisions to make when or if that happens to my own dog. I've watched a lot of people go through that journey with their French Bulldogs, and it's just a rough one. It's a rough one for everyone. So I was waiting for the diagnosis, trying to calm down my puppy, and they come into the room, and of course they say, hey, this is probably IVDD. And my heart just completely sank. And I felt this tremendous, overwhelming sense of like hopelessness. And I was like, oh my God, not my dog. Like, this is the one thing I've done everything in my power to prevent, like regular exercise, stretching her, giving her so much love, giving her the right type of food. The vets always say whenever I bring her in, she is the healthiest French Bulldogs we've ever seen. And I was just distraught and I was heartbroken. And this was probably last week or the week before that. And I had a choice in that moment to be completely crushed by the diagnosis or their hypothesis of the diagnosis and be like, oh no, like now Sky is going to be in a crate for the rest of her life and she's got to be able to play with other dogs or ever jump or run again and all this stuff. Or I can choose to be present and have authentic acceptance about the situation, because I can't change it right now and I can't leave the situation. I won't leave the situation. So I have to accept it. That was my only choice in that moment. And so I tried my best to sink into acceptance. And what came up for me was just a lot of grieving the possibilities of what could happen in the future if she didn't recover. So they said, put her on crate rest for 2 weeks, which means that she's going to be basically in her crate for most of the day, feed her these medications, an anti-inflammatory and a painkiller, and just let us know how she does 2 weeks from now. Just make sure she doesn't jump, she doesn't run, she doesn't do anything like that. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I embark on a healing journey with this little puppy. And the first night that I had her, I cried myself to sleep because I was just grieving the possibilities of my dog not being healthy and her not having the life that she really deserves. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, you know what? Crazier things have happened. Crazier things have happened. There have been more miracles on this earth than I could even count. And why not invest all of my positive, loving energy into this puppy's healing journey and be so excited about looking for small improvements every single day, as opposed to being fixated on, is she going to be healthy or is she going to be crippled for the rest of her life? Like, that was not where I needed to focus my attention. I needed to get more excited on the journey and the process of her recovery than the actual outcome of the recovery itself. I knew that I needed to make that shift in order to have authentic acceptance and presence with the situation and not feel like completely crushed by it. And just to tie this back to business, I noticed that a lot of my students who join OCA or people who are embarking on an entrepreneurial journey, they are so fixated on the number. Like, if I don't make 100K this year, I suck. Or if I don't, get this client on the sales call, I'm the worst. And it's just not that black and white. You need to be so focused and so in love with looking for very small improvements every single day, as opposed to being fixated and attached and obsessed with the outcome of either winning or losing, succeeding or failing. It's not that black and white. You need to be obsessed with the journey of getting there, looking for small improvements every single day. So I decided to make a very conscious decision to be present with the journey and not fixate on the outcome with my dog and with my business. And that is the only thing that's allowed me to stay sane and operational and incredibly at peace in both of those situations, whether it's growing my business from 0 to 7 figures from scratch, bootstrapping it all myself, not taking any outside investments or loans or anything like that. And then finally dealing with this very personal situation with my dog, which my dog is my life. Like, she's my everything. And so I had a really big opportunity to step into who I wanted to be in that moment and who I would be proud of being in that moment, as opposed to surrendering to the panic and surrendering to the victimhood about, oh no, now my dog is crippled forever. Like, I didn't want to believe that. In fact, I didn't want to believe that she was healthy either, because that would have been denial. So I had to have authentic acceptance about the moment. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if it does. So another metaphor to introduce to you guys is, how do you swim against a riptide? You know, in your journey, you may feel like you are getting sucked in by the waves and you feel like there's nothing you can do to swim out of it. Like, everything's going wrong. Every odd is being stacked against you. Or you feel like the waves are so strong that you have very little strength to swim against them. So my question to you is, if you know oceans, you know how to swim in an ocean, how do you swim against a riptide? A riptide is something that really sucks you in. The answer is, you don't swim against the riptide. You swim with the riptide, or else you drown. Like, you get exhausted and you drown. And that's very, very typical. People get caught in a riptide and they try to swim against the riptide, try to swim towards the shore, not realizing that they are in a riptide that's sucking them backwards, instead of just turning around and swimming with the riptide, or swimming parallel to the beach and swimming with it in order to save themselves. Now, the way that the metaphor ties back to your business is, there may be a couple situations that you cannot control. There may be instances in your personal life that you cannot control and that go wrong, and give you an opportunity to really look at the way that you're behaving and the way that you're showing up. And you have a choice at that point to either resist and be in an argument with reality, or you have the option to surrender and to trust that you're getting exactly what you need, even if it's not what you want, and swim with the riptide and learn the lessons it has to teach you. If you can master that, you will have an incredibly vibrant and enthusiastic and exciting and happiness and peaceful entrepreneurial journey. The journey that I now have in entrepreneurship is incredibly peaceful. It's intentional, it's slow, it's easy, and it's because I've done so much work to really have this level of authentic acceptance around what does go wrong or what does go right. I have acceptance for all parts of it because I know that I'm constantly getting the lessons that I need in order to become the person that I want to become. So, in addition to all of these things, I hope that me just opening up about my journey with entrepreneurship and speaking to the issues that you may be dealing with right now, I hope that this helps you feel less alone, because you are truly not alone, and you deserve to know that other people out there have your back. And I am one of those people that has your back. And what helped me, along with therapy and a lot of personal development and a lot of amazing friends, was having support and accountability in my business, because I knew that if I was going to do this thing, it was really, really not intelligent to do it alone. I had tried to do it alone for 3 or 4 years before getting my first high-paying client. And the moment that everything shifted for me was when I hired my first mentor, and I actually decided to tangibly invest in myself. I was sending a message to the universe at that point, like, hey, I believe in me more than I believe in my current limiting circumstances. No, I didn't have the money. No, I didn't have like any credit lines. I had to open up 2 credit cards and get PayPal credit and everything to invest in my first mentor. And at the same time, it paid off tenfold, because I was sending a message out to myself and the universe. I believe in me more than I believe in my limiting circumstances, period. There is no discussion. I'm getting there. I'm going to be successful. Whether this is a good investment or a good lesson, I'm willing to accept either outcome. So that's what I would invite you guys to do. And if you're an online coach and you're wondering how you can get the support and accountability that you deserve on your journey, I would love to again introduce and remind you that Online Coach Accelerator is open for enrollment, which means that you have the opportunity right now in the month of February 2020 to enroll as one of our students inside of this 90-day business mentorship program. Inside of OCA, we teach you how to niche down, how to find the most profitable niche for you. We teach you how to create an irresistible offer for your ideal clients that will make them absolutely feel like they need to work with you because they see your value. We'll also teach you how to do sales calls with confidence and authenticity and without feeling slimy or pushy or salesy. We'll teach you how to create content that sells and does all the selling for you. I'll give you all of my different post types that are proven to perform on Instagram, Facebook, and all social media channels. And you'll also get a lot of training on how to write copy or how to write content that actually converts. It is my life's work. This module 6 in OCA, is all about how to do marketing on social media, and it is absolutely my life's work in terms of distilling and distinguishing all of the most powerful tactics you can employ in your coaching business to generate clients online. In addition to that, we also teach a lot of business management and productivity, time management, energy management, and mindset, because you need all of them in order to create a thriving 6-figure online coaching business. So if you are interested in that, I also wanted to take a moment to break down our support system for you on what we offer inside of OCA that's different than any other course you've ever joined. Online Coach Accelerator has 3 pillars of support that we include for all of our students. The first pillar is education. Education, by far, is the most important milestone that you need to go through in order to properly set up your business for growth. So we have a variety of video modules and an entire online course that you can go through week by week that we drip to you whenever you're ready to move on to the next step. We also have homework assignments and trainings inside of that membership area. In addition to education, we also have support channels. Inside of our support channels, you have access to weekly Q&A calls with your lead coach. You have access to unlimited daily messaging support, so you can write in any question that you have at any time related to your homework or the modules or what you're implementing in your business right now. You can ask us, hey, does this content look good? Or what should I do about this situation with the client? XYZ, nothing's off limits. As long as it has to do with your coaching business, we can absolutely help you in answering all of those things. Now, in addition to that, you also get access to a small team that I personally group you into. I take all of the OCA students and I group them into teams of 10, depending on their personality type, what type of business they're running, what level of business experience they have. And I put you into a team where you are going to have the most possibility for success because of the people who are around you are going to be very, very supportive for your growth. And for each one of those teams, I assign you your personal accountability coach that once a week you'll have a call with your team to discuss what you got done the last week, what you didn't get done the last week, and what's really standing in your way of making progress through this program. A lot of people are concerned about not being able to take advantage of the program because they're so busy. But my response to that is I've literally made OCA for the busy individual. I know what it's like to be busy. I know what it's like to be at capacity. And so I've created Online Coach Accelerator to fit into your busy schedule and give you a productivity and accountability coach assigned directly to you to follow up with you every single week and ask you what you've been able to achieve and what's standing in your way, and give you real tactics and actionable steps to make sure that you're moving through the program at a good pace. And if you don't make these weekly calls or you don't respond to us when we ask you what you've gotten done, don't worry, we're going to follow up with you like a crazy ex-girlfriend and make sure that you are fully supported and you're getting everything that you need from the program in every single week. We make it really, really hard to fail in this type of structure. In addition to that, we also offer lifetime access to all of the training material that we provide inside of Online Coach Accelerator. So if you ever want to go back into the modules, you want to watch the video trainings, you want to have a breakdown of all the different trainings that we've shared throughout the 90-day experience together, you have access to having that forever, for life. And all the call recordings with your accountability coach or your lead coaches, the Q&A calls, you'll have lifetime access to all of those as well. So fear not, even if you don't get everything done within the 90 days, you have lifetime access to go back and look at all of the valuable information that we provide and make sure that you are getting results on your own time. But keep in mind that we make it very, very difficult not to get something done inside of OCA. And we know entrepreneurs, especially online coaches, like the back of our hands. So we know all of your self-sabotaging patterns. We know the excuses that generally come into play when it comes to building your business. And that's why we have such a sturdy and solid support structure for you. So if you are interested in checking out Online Coach Accelerator and booking a quick discovery call with my team to find out if it's going to be a perfect fit for you, go to www.onlinecoachaccelerator.com and book in your discovery call there. Again, Online Coach Accelerator is simply the program that I wish so desperately I had at the beginning of my coaching business, and I didn't. So I created it. And my hope is that you hear this message, and if you're feeling called to it at any level, you just give yourself what you deserve, which is a chance. And you just hop on a call with us. You have literally nothing to lose. This is not a sales call necessarily. This is just a call to decide, hey, is OCA actually going to be able to help you? What's going on in your business right now? What do you truly want to create? And how committed are you to creating that? And if it looks like we can help you get there, then of course we'll talk about the details of what the investment is and what we include inside of it and show you more details about what we give inside of Online Coach Accelerator. With that being said, guys, I hope that this episode was relieving for you to listen to. I hope that you got some great nuggets out of it. And if you did, post it up on Instagram. And I will talk to you next Friday for the next episode of Payday with Rayray. Love ya. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did find it super valuable, you just want to share it with the world, make sure you screenshot, post, and tag me on Instagram so I can stalk your profile and we can connect more. And to get notified on the next episode here on Payday, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes so you never miss a beat. Get out there, secure the bag, and I will see you next Payday.